The chances of finding a pearl in an oyster are 1 in 12,000. The chances of being hit by lightning are 1 in 700,000. The odds of the soul surviving the body's death are 1 in nothing, 1 in nada, 1 in zilch. You must be asleep. Of this you are certain, and soon you will wake. And then you have this terrible thought, more terrible than this savage island, this godless planet, this dying sun, and this snoring galaxy. What if all this while asleep is what you have been? And what if, from this moment forth, you, Malinda Almeida, photographer, gambler, slut, never get to close your eyes ever again? I'm Shehan KARUNATILAKA. I'm from Sri Lanka. And I write lots of things. So I write advertising and websites for a living, but I also spend most of my time writing novels, short stories, children's books, essays and lists and sentences, paragraphs, the whole shebang. It is a gift. It is a gift to be able to sit and type all day in your pajamas, and I've appreciated it, especially in a place like this. So now my answers to these questions are going to be tainted by what current events in Sri Lanka, because what is Sri Lanka is currently being debated on a large scale, and we don't know the outcome of that. They are in case in point. So while I've been in Iowa, there's been a revolution back home, and there's a standoff between the people asking the government to step down because of the economic crisis. And what I would say is Sri Lanka it's a naturally beautiful place, and it's got a 2,000-year history filled with conflict and filled with quirky, absurd characters. And so for a novelist, short story writer, there's plenty of things to work with. But on the other hand, I also have to live there, and my children have to grow up there, and my parents have to grow old there. And so I often quote Muhammad Hanif, who was talking about Pakistan producing lots of great novels because of their conflicts, and he said, yes, but I'd rather have a peaceful country and bad books. And I also sort of feel that way. So this is the best and the worst. It's because, there's plenty of conflict for me to work with, but I also need a livable place so I can type in peace. See, the thing is, even no matter how grim things get, and if in my lifetime I've seen everything, it's not a miserable, gloomy place at all. It's even in the midst of this, you should see the memes that are going back and forth, the humor, the jokes, the banners. And I think it's a cheerful, and that's been part of our detriment as well, because we're so cheerful and typical happy-go-lucky islanders. We've let situations get to this level. So it is a pleasant place to live, and it's just a shame that we are put through these challenges every time. But so far, I'm confused to what to say, because I don't know what I'm going to go back to. But as seen by all the people on the streets, it is something worth fighting for, and I think that's the thing. I'm desperate to go back and join the protests and write about them. So I like the whole process of, I like the research stage when you're reading and you have a topic or something you want to discover and you read. I like that phase. I'm in that with a current novel. I like the plotting. I like putting down the idea. So that's all fine. And I like having written. I like having written, and then the editing, the thing that you thought wasn't working, you suddenly move it. So all that's lovely. The writing part, the getting started, that's the thing, and I've struggled with it in Iowa as well. We were given 3-4 months to write this assignment. Took me 3-4 months to write the first sentence, and then 2 days before, all the words flowed. So I think but now I don't get too upset about it. I just I used to, now I know it's part of the process, but the getting started and the actual writing, putting the first words down, that's tough. But all the other stuff is fun. So I'm thinking the writer in the public sphere is now everyone. Now, I don't know if we have a privileged position just because we do it for a living and we're paid to do it. Now, everyone on Twitter has a public duty. Everyone on Facebook who, especially in these times of crisis, who put out their opinions and information. So I don't take that burden on my shoulder. I think we all, if you're writing something in the public domain, I think our obligation, the duty is to be entertaining, interesting, insightful, not boring, but also accurate and truthful. And this is, you can't regulate this stuff. Everyone has their own moral compass. But yeah, I don't think the writer is now everyone's a photographer, everyone's a filmmaker, everyone's a writer, and everyone's in the public. So yeah, we all have that responsibility, I think. So look, I don't know how, for instance, this wonderful thing is put together, how the funding works, where you bring writers from all across the world and we have this rich experience. And hopefully we're giving something back to the community. And yeah, I don't know how the finance of this works. But I suspect the free market, or if you have a corporate sponsor, it's not quite going to fly. So, but again, I have to keep going back to the current situation. If I look in Sri Lanka, literature is great, but the state need to finally make sure there's food on the table and there's money in the bank. So literature being supported by the state, and there is state patronage, there are prizes and encouragements, but I think that's a pipe dream for Sri Lanka at the moment. But yeah, I really don't know how it works, but I think it's a great thing and it's great that America is supporting this. And it's not just Iowa, it happens in all sorts of disciplines all over the world, and in supporting the arts. But my part of the world, it usually is the corporate sponsorship that happens, and it's never ideal, and it's never sustained as well. Yeah. So I'm going to geek out on writing tips and grammar, but actually this book, it stayed with me all through the pandemic. Elements of Eloquence by Mark Forsyth. And it's just like 20 or 30 tips on literary tricks and devices, but he cites everything from, the Greeks to Shakespeare to pop culture to songs and everything. But each chapter's got a fancy Greek name for it. But it's written he writes it in such a way, and I wish I could quote from it or have an example. The one that comes to mind is probably the simplest, but James Bond, which is the iconic, the movie title. It's really a man just saying his name, and if he just said, "Hello, my name is James Bond," it wouldn't be an iconic name, but this repetition, it's called diacope. And we've always known about it. Zed's dead, baby, Zed's dead, you will, Oscar, you will. This little device, which we kind of use. So it's good to have this. And yeah, I keep it by my bedside, and I always kind of fill myself with these tricks from around the edges, because in the end, we are pulling a few magic tricks, right? That's what the craft of writing is. So yeah, it's not fiction, but it's with me always. Yeah. That's a multi-pronged question. So on my desktop, it's the usual news and advertising stuff, and it's the hobbies and guitar lessons and all that. But of course, it's always the projects of this month. So this month's project is, I'm researching a novel about Sri Lankan business, which has now taken a sinister turn since the country's bankrupt again, but that's one. I'm researching a kid's story about insects, and I'm also writing an essay on this current situation, and yeah, I really don't know how that's going to turn out, because it keeps changing on a daily basis. So those are the three things that I've been kind of focusing on. And I write a website for a bank. So it's like my normal work also helps the tips I get from that. So yeah, it's good to have four things, because you usually do the least urgent thing first. So my children's book gets written first, but it all gets done eventually. Impressions of Iowa. So firstly, okay, biking has been a pleasure, and it's been perfect writing weather. So when the sun's out, I bike up and down this river, and yeah, there's an idea in my head by the time I get home. Or when it's sort of gloomy, then I sit and type. So that's been great. Thing that surprised me, I think Iowa and Chicago, is how polite people are. I guess we had an impression maybe formed by your last president, that Americans are a certain way, and they're a lot more politer than people I encounter in Singapore or Colombo. And so that's been the big revelation for me, which is great. I thought it was an Iowa small town thing, but I found the people in Chicago also quite charming. But maybe I'm just a tourist, who knows. But the usual things are, money which doesn't have numbers on it and are different sizes. I still can't fathom tipping. Like I do the thing in my head, but yeah, it's still a mystery to me. And also how quick, and again, this is where I've gone, and no matter how liberal and progressive you think they are, how quick Americans are to talk about guns and defend them. And I was like, yeah, I was quite taken aback, because it's a fascinating conversation for someone across the world where this is not, we've had plenty of violence, but thank heavens there's no guns in those protests in Sri Lanka. But yeah, I guess these are not big surprises. I expected some level of it, but the politeness has been a nice, welcome surprise, yeah. Well, all I can say, it is a privilege to be here with these brilliant writers, and well, brilliant writers have walked before us, and I've had a great time. I've written more than I thought I would, and hopefully there's a few more weeks left. I'm going to keep writing. So all I can say is I just wish all the writers here and all the writers who are coming after me lots of words and stories and ideas and fun.